AM 650 KGAB, Doug Randall in for Glenn Woods. I have in studio a couple members of the Cheyenne City Council. We have Councilman Scott Roybal and Councilman Richard Johnson. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you today?
Doing well. How are you doing?
So far, so good. Wow, you guys started early up here.
Yeah, we do. I've been here for a while already, so... Anyway, you're here to talk about a non-discrimination ordinance, and I need to be clear, this has not been written yet. This is still in the stage of being compiled. Is that correct?
It is. Once, for an ordinance to be brought up before the council, it has to be sponsored by a councilman. And so then we send it up to legal, the lawyers at the city. They go through it, make sure the language is right, make sure there's no, we're not stepping on our own feet or anything. And then they bring it down, we put it on the agenda, and then it starts through the process.
Why do we need a non-discrimination ordinance in Cheyenne?
No, it's my turn to speak.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, Doug, am I allowed to say that as long as it doesn't violate FCC rules, anybody can call in and say whatever they want to me?
Okay, you heard from the council.
Yeah, both of us. Okay. Why this is needed, pretty much just like any other ordinance, obviously people feel that there's a need for it. So at one time, people thought spitting on the sidewalks needed to be an ordinance. Discrimination is not acceptable, or it shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form. That can be from, using myself as an example, I've been classified as gay. I didn't date anybody for like almost 10 years, and so people thought because I was never with anybody the assumption was I was gay. I've been mistaken for a homeless man more times than I can count. I mean, even by the community shelter director, she thinks I'm one of hers when I walk down the street.
Richard keeps his city council name tag in his wallet, so when he walks into the city, he can't come in and shows him.
Yeah, in case I get thrown out of events, I always have my city council badge with me so that it's prepared. But basically, discrimination should not be accepted in any fashion. Just for actual example, one of my former employees, when he went to the polls last November, one of the pollsters actually asked him, "Are you man or woman?" And when he came back and told me that, I was like, "Do you want me to contact the Secretary of State? Because that's unacceptable." I was like, "You're here to vote and execute your right as an American citizen to participate in this action. It should not matter, what gender you are." And so the fact that that was even brought up, he's also had issues, not with the staff, but people that were just in the store when he was at a local place here, decided to whisper under their breath something that was derogatory, and he flares up. I mean, this kid will fight anybody, it's not like he's demure in any way, shape, or form. So yes, it's still out there. I've been with other friends when we walked into Target and a truck drove by and they screamed something at him, and this is before I was even on city council. I was like, does that happen often? And they're like, well, it's weird in Cheyenne because it doesn't happen often, so when it does happen, it kind of takes you off guard. And so I was like, well, do you dwell on it? And they're like, well, no, we just kind of look at it as ignorance. But yeah, I've been in multiple cases, with individuals around the community where it definitely does occur. So just from my point of view, I don't really look at it as, Wyoming equality. I think about, because they're more advocacy, I think about the individuals that are out there that aren't part of Wyoming equality, that just are trying to go about their daily lives, go to work, raise their kids, everything just like every other individual does. And just to put these kinds of protections in order for these slip of the tongues per se that happen, that is just completely disrespectful to a human being.
Now, if this happened, if you were in a store under the ordinance, or anybody was in a store, and somebody made an anti-gay comment, would that be covered under the ordinance?
Most likely not, because that, like my example with the individuals that just said it in passing. No, this one covers more as if it was a clerk was refusing you service, or say example, you got evicted from your house, and the reason that you were evicted from your house was because you were gay, and things of that nature. It's more like services. And I mean, that when Scott says that we're currently in the drafting mode, I am in full research mode on this. I mean, everything from the EEOE, when anybody says these rights are protected under the Wyoming Constitution, where they're protected under the U.S. Constitution, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the clauses there. I mean, it's a wide scope, and even what was written yesterday by Reed Eckhart on his blog, where he's kind of referenced the case of Judge Neely recently, where Justice Fox came back with her report and said that, you know, you have complete right to practice your religion, you just can't act on it. And so, I kind of have been on a self-mission not to Bible cherry pick, to go through and say, well, if, you know, this is a sin and this is a sin, you know, how do I balance sins? Dr. Rennie did a very eloquent speech, you know, during the resolution, speaking about eating shellfish. And so I thought about when I was in Denver and ate a rattlesnake quail hot dog. Technically, I ate something that was on the ground. So how many of you out there have actually tried to eat snake? Well, according to Leviticus, that's a sin. So where do we pick our sins, and who gets to enforce it? And I'm not a Christian, but if any higher power ever judges me, shouldn't it be up to them? And as far as the laws on earth, so that's where we go.
Let me make sure I'm understanding.
They're going to do a town hall, or what is it, a town hall?
Yeah, the League of Women Voters is going to do like a town hall forum to and this one's actually, this shows how much progress we've made just since the resolution. A lot of, even the mayor, when she was on here on Monday, said that a lot of this should be handled with communication. And so by actually getting members of the faith-based community, as well as members of the LGBT community, just to vet out questions from the public, education is key on every law.
Yeah. Oh.
I do need to take care of some business here, and okay. Go ahead, Councilman.
Well, I was just going to say that the last couple of times they've handed us a sheet of paper, and we worked on it from the dais, but sitting up on dais and taking questions and answers and comments, and then making amendments there. This time, I think that it's going to be better that we listen to everybody, listen to both sides, and decide what works this time, and take it forward that way. That way, we don't have 6 hours of testimony each night.
Get it hashed out ahead of time.
Hashed out ahead of time.
Okay, I do have to take care of some business, and then we'll be back with a caller here. Thanks for the call.
All right, Michael, I'll try to answer them all independently. As far as recruitment, this is something I wanted to bring up. A lot of the proposition for economic diversity in Wyoming has kind of been focused on the what they call the Silicon Prairie philosophy, to bring more tech industry into Wyoming. A lot of people that I've heard from in the tech industry that basically are trying to do recruitment cannot do so, because when they put out the international scope for employment, some of the questions that come back from the individuals that are most qualified are, is there protections in order? I'm LGBTQ, and the answer comes back no. You have a skill set that can be used worldwide. Why would you choose Wyoming if you know that your rights are going to be infringed upon? Another example is the Air Force Base is currently covered under laws in regards to this. So the instant you step off the base, you're basically lose your rights. As far as individuals, like you stated with the Hooters example, pretty much that'd be on a case-by-case basis. I would hope that you would just hire the most qualified. As an employer, you pretty much, if the interview process, if you just send back a rejection letter, you do not have to state actually why you were refused the job. Those calls will go back to Human Resources, and then they have a script already prepared, basically stating, I'm sorry, that can't be disclosed. As far as actually hiring and firing, most likely, if they were fired for that reason, then yes, you could end up in court. Most employers currently have a vetting process of warnings and write-ups. So if there's disciplinary actions that can be followed up in paperwork, then usually that's the course it was if they weren't meeting their job performance, and that's how they're let go. But if an individual was actually fired strictly for being transgender, then, and that was actually stated that that was the reason for their termination, then yes, you would be probably in court.
Looks like we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Down to, if I kept quiet, then that must mean there's not a problem. And so just like everything, you've known me now for about 3 years. And have I ever worried about, not bringing up any social issues, even if it was a hard one? And so in regards to individual rights, I guess I'm going to take the premise that my mom gave me, since I've already announced that I wasn't Christian. My mom just says, treat everyone like you would like to be treated. And so I've kind of went by that mantra in my life. As far as individual rights, just from everything from property to just the way people are treated, it comes down to the fact of you know, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all, and you're probably going to be in the best bed. But as far as individual rights, where do your rights begin and where do my end? And so just like property rights, just because you want to, you know, do things in your yard, I may not find that. And so if you're violating a noise ordinance that's disrupting my lifestyle, just because you have the right to play it loud doesn't mean I have the right to listen to it loud. So that's where my take on individual rights goes.
Okay, and we're getting ready to go into a bottom of the hour information break. We'll be back with Cheyenne City Council members Scott Roybal and Richard Johnson and more on the non-discrimination ordinance.